North Africa is a huge importer of wheat. It's one of the most significant regions for any of the importers around the world. So it is a key area where there's a lot of price requirements that are needed. There are a population of around 200 million people who are all dependent upon these imports. So it's a vital part of the whole supply chain, and end users in particular are very prone or very exposed to fluctuations within the prices. And recently what we've seen with the disruption in the Black Sea is that many of those existing pricing references have been completely disrupted, and now end users in that region are particularly vulnerable to fluctuations in prices, which is raising questions for them about where that wheat is coming from and how much they should be paying for it. It's a slightly unusual approach to price reporting here, in that typically you would work with bids, offers, transaction data, information that comes from the marketplace itself to establish a price. That's a benchmark price that can be looked at by the industry and used to develop all sorts of other contractual approaches or derivatives or exchange-listed contracts to help manage risk. This is slightly unusual in that there isn't really the same level of bids or offers available for this region. So what we're doing is we're taking our FOB prices, so these are the prices at origins, we're adding a freight marker to those levels, and we're projecting a delivered price for the North Africa region. And we're using 5 key regions that are potential exporters: Argentina, US Gulf, Germany, Russia, and then European wheat prices, plus an appropriate freight value to give us a landed price. For the delivered price itself, we then take the cheapest of those 5 options, and that sets our price. So it's a different way of approaching a market, but it still delivers a robust price, which is based on physical bids or offers that the market itself is trading. Well, we've literally just launched this price, so it is a brand new price that is now appearing on our services. But because of the nature of how the price is derived, we're able to project a price history for it that goes back 3 years. So we have a long price history for it, but at the moment it is still effectively a new price, and we haven't really tried this delivered pricing before in the wheat market, so it is new. Our hope is that it will at least start a conversation around how these critical importing nations are valuing what they are having to import, how they are able to contract or to negotiate contracts using these prices. At the moment, much of that wheat is imported by tender, which can be a very inefficient way of doing it. As soon as a big importing nation comes out and says, I need to tender to buy 500,000 tons of wheat, the price of wheat goes up. So immediately it almost becomes self-defeating. You're almost paying more purely because you're making a big announcement about having to buy more. So we hope the price could be used in those conversations around contracts, around negotiations, and could bring a bit more clarity to how much importing nations should be buying in this critical area. So in essence, at the moment, it's a novelty, it's a new area, it's an area that people can look at and discuss, but we would like to think that we can fine-tune it and finesse it and get to a point where the industry itself is actually adopting it and using it in these essential conversations. It's hard to know at this stage because, as I said, it is a new price, but our hopes are that this actually shifts the focus away from some of those producing nations, and there are challenges capturing any producer nation, because there's obviously there's fierce seasonality involved in that. Prices will tend to come down as the harvest lands, and then as that harvest supply is exhausted, price will creep back up again. And there's a seasonality to that, which means it can be a challenge for price reporters to be able to capture enough physical information through those quieter months towards the end of the harvest. So the great advantage of shifting the emphasis away from the origins and towards the destination markets is that there's a constant year-round demand, and it's less exposed to some of the geopolitical concerns that may also accompany big producing regions like the Black Sea. And the Black Sea really is the case in point at the moment. On top of that, if you layer climate change and the impact of extreme weather on some of these producing regions, there's a whole cocktail of uncertainty in there that really does make this a challenge to continue using these origin-based pricing solutions. So hopefully by switching it to a destination market, it starts to push the question a bit more towards the end users and gives them a bit more sway and a bit more power in those conversations to actually redress the influence of some of the really big players that are active in this market.